Welcome, everyone. I am Jameson Root, the Executive Director of NACA. Glad to see everybody as a part of our webinar today in partnership with CAS, the Council for the Advancement of Standards in Higher Education, as they're going to talk with us about the new CAS Plus platform. We've got a couple guest stars here, Doreen Murner, the CAS Executive Director, Jason Velasquez from Texas State, who's the CAS president-elect, and our very own Gail Spencer, who's one of our CAS representatives and serves as CAS president. And I also see Joe Lizza on here. So Joe is also one of the NACA CAS reps. So welcome, welcome. And I will turn it over to Jason.
Oh, thanks, y'all. Well, before you start, actually, pitch over to our colleagues, Gail and Dree. Y'all want to do some more introductions before we jump in while I get the materials?
Sure. I see lots of people I know on this call, and it's great to see you all. And Joe is one of my colleagues on CAS. I've been a member of NACA since probably some of you were born, but I love the organization, and I'm thrilled that you're here to learn more about our new CAS portal. And I work at the University of Illinois. I'm the Senior Director of the Illinois Leadership Center. Do you want to say anything, Doreen?
Yeah, hi everyone. It's so nice to see all of you. So grateful you had the time to join us so we can tell you a little bit about what we've been doing. Just of note, so Gail didn't tell you, she is the outgoing president as of September 1st, and Jason is the incoming president of CAS. So yeah, she didn't tell you that little fun fact. But we're excited to talk to you today, and feel free to ask questions either in the chat or put your hand up and we'll get to you as we can.
And welcome. I'm Jason Velasquez. I serve as the Director for Campus Recreation at Texas State University. Represent NERSA, incoming president for CAS as mentioned. And yes, thanks for having us. We're excited. We've just launched this portal. So we kind of want to shake things up with our presentation style. If you've been to NERSA CAS presentation previously and have gone through kind of what standards are, we're still going to be a little bit of that history, and we're going to kind of use the first couple slides to create some interaction to understand the group a bit better as well. I know we just did intros, so let's create warm up in the chat. So we'll kick things off with a little bit of learning and what to expect from the next couple minutes we have together, right? So we are going to do our little deep dive into the history of CAS and kind of how the work has evolved around self-evaluation, assessment. We're going to work on, in our second outcome here, looking at the various uses of CAS standards. We find that to be a good use of time, is the different ways in which these standards and cross-functional frameworks get deployed. But we will spend, the chunkier part of the day definitely in the CAS Plus portal, showing people how to get signed up, how to use it, with some little bit of guidance and best practices on that actual usage. So we'll kick this to the chat as well. We're going to ask a series of questions, just two, around your level of I actually swapped these slides about 15 minutes ago. So we're actually going to start with your familiarity with CAS question. So we do open this also so we can understand better the audience and your level of understanding of CAS standards or just the general organization. So go ahead and start populating once you've kind of read the prompts, what 1 through 5 looks like for you. If you think, hey, I use CAS standards, or I use them in grad school, or I use, maybe I'm a 3, or look, I don't know anything about CAS. I'm just here to learn more about that, plus this new portal. It's always a fun table setting exercise just to see where everybody's at. And I'm going to pull this over so y'all can see here. All right, we're running the gamut. Kind of feels like we're on a 3.5. I see some people actually put a half. Love that. No problem. Coming in and out. Yeah, love it.
Well, it's good no one's a 1.
And again, no shade otherwise. We're just trying to, kind of, it may temper the conversation or change some of the dialogue slightly, but again, just to know a little bit of the background of who's in the space. Great. Some people who maybe use CAS more regularly, maybe you haven't used it since grad school, or use it that once every 3 years when you have to do that program review. Love it. That will definitely help us guide conversation. So we're going to jump to the more controversial topic of the two. You're familiar with CAS, but on a similar 1 to 5 scale. We'll make sure we give everybody enough space. Okay, looks like we've got a lot. And again, this is nothing we're going to quantitatively summarize for a research report in any way. It's just to get a baseline. 2, this isn't what we usually lead with, the idea of AI, but a lot of the history of the portal and the new technology we're leveraging does have to do with AI. So I always like to talk about this too. Let's go ahead and hit a restart. So I don't know how to make the delineation in the chat. But now the next question would be, what are your feelings about AI? Is there, and I know that there's a gradient of feelings here. Yeah, new question, thanks. But kind of a, hey, I'm kind of interested, don't really know. I'm, I don't, if you're a one, that's great. I think I'm more of a, I just give myself as a highlight because of the work with AI we've done with this portal. I'm somewhere in a three and a four, even with the work of the CAS portal. I'm more neutral, ambivalent, concerned. So I'm actually maybe more of a two, three, four. That's not really a fair answer. So okay, I'm seeing some threes and fours. Nobody's a completely stay away Skynet. It's very understandable if you are. Uh, Depending on what article I read, I'm a five some days. Fluctuate between, yeah, that's a good way to, I like Josh's answer. I fluctuate between a two and a four. That's exactly, I'm going to steal that one, Josh. That's exactly where I sit. I'm kind of excited. Some days I'm pretty concerned. But that's a great prep. We like to start there at the preface because when we conceived this project within the last year, and I'll say even we go back another year before that, the idea of this project was being kind of incubated and thought about, but the cost, the nature of utilizing tech platforms that didn't make sense. We fast forward a year. I'll give you more of a history when we get to that part. Fast forward a year, and it does make a lot more sense. The costs have come way down. We were able to engage in this project. But thank you all for your willingness to participate, and please keep using the chat. We will be monitoring and talk about it. You all are kind of one of the first stops we're making on this roadshow. This portal is new as of, I'm really bad at dates, a couple months ago. So we've really started the push now, and that's what's exciting. But let me take us all the way back to 1979 to our founding. We came together as a consortium. We're currently a consortium of 42 member associations. So we're an organization that doesn't necessarily have an individual membership structure. You all as NACA are a member, one of 42 various associations that make up our CAS Council. So the idea of CAS goes back to 1979 and a group of student affairs professionals, higher ed professionals, coming together saying we really need some standards of guidance, whether it's in our professional practice, our functional areas, or even it was expanded into the graduate programs that train these higher education professionals. So we created kind of these two sets of standards. And oh yeah, thanks, Gail. NACA is a founding, I don't know if I could pause there if you want to say more, but a founding association in that consortium.
Yeah.
And so kind of purpose-wise, looking at things, the standards themselves were developed to be these profession-wide standards. Main use was for this idea of rigorous self-study, program development, continuous improvement. You'll hear that theme repeated because that is really the roots we're returning to with some of the functional pieces of the CAS Plus portal. So what that's looked like over time from a set of standards or two has now morphed into campus activities, leadership programs, all being part of that spectrum of standards, is we have 53 sets of functional area standards, the most recent being basic needs, programs and services. And then we also include 3 areas of functional frameworks, cross-functional frameworks. Those are really meant to, the most recent one we have that's being updated is advancing health and well-being on campus. So the idea of cross-functional teams from multiple offices coming together to create an initiative or a program, that's what cross-functional is really meant to tackle. Within the concept of those frameworks and functional areas, the how we get to these really well-developed standards is the idea that they are consensus, collaborative, and expert-driven. So when standards are updated, hopefully every couple of years, or they're being charged as a new set of standards, we work as a council and a governing board to charge a group of experts represented, an association brings along a group of experts, and a committee comes together, and we crowdsource a lot of this information. We try to have these large representative group of experts develop the language, update the language within the framework, which I'll display here, of the standard. So for those unfamiliar, for those familiar, this will all be old hat. For those not, I do like to highlight not only the components, the backbone of the standards themselves, which all follow this linear methodology of these 12 sections, starting with your mission, going all the way to your facilities and infrastructure. But I do like to display it overlaid with the guiding principles that create the buckets to give some of the real heavy theme analysis of what a standard is made up of. So our parts 1 and 4 are really about students and the environments that they live in, the programs and services, the learning outcomes related to that, how we assess those things. Section 5 is a standalone, even though these concepts are infused through multiple sections, as well as the advocating for diverse, equitable, and inclusive communities. The organization of the operation, the functional area, gets contained in sections 6 through 8. You have, your human resources, your teams, your personnel. Ethical consideration stands alone with law and policy in section 9. And then 12 or 10 through 12 gets a little bit less love sometimes, but it's really helpful to think about it as how you're creating these learning conducive structures, resources, and systems. So whether that's the facilities and technology related to running an esports program or a union, rec center, campus activities, like the sections 10 through 12 have a lot of heart and weight to them, as well as how we look at the functional area standards. So this gives you kind of the high level of a functional of an area standard. How they currently exist, to kind of pull it over to the portal, is these large PDFs. This idea that so for those, I can't really see any faces. I don't know if I have any head nods in the crowd, but the idea that you're reading a very static document that follows these 12 sections that has a layer of these general standards, which is something I kind of breezed over. General standards are the guiding framework that are transposed over all of those 53 functional area standards, whether it's esports or campus activities. But the functional area language for your very specific area, like campus activities, lives underneath each of these 12 sections as well, which will make more sense, hopefully, once we dive in. I'll give a pause there. Gail, do anything on just our current, I should say, current general format of the standards?
No, I think that it has served us well. One of the challenges that we've had is the longer we review and make new general standards every 3 years, and they've kind of gotten too big and too much. And as we talk about this more, AI has been really helpful to look where we have things that overlap, that are redundant, to make these even shorter. Not that short is good, but 52 pages is a lot.
A slide I like to linger on a little bit more is the actual uses. Like, what are these standards used for? I find when I'm talking to graduate level class now, a lot of times they're like, okay, this is great. How do I use these, and how will I be expected to use these in my field or where I choose to work? The one you think about most often is your assessment plans and program reviews. So measuring program and service effectiveness. Again, this is at the heart of where CAS started, the idea that these standards get translated into a self-assessment guide that you are able to, as an individual area, fill out your reflections on how you meet that criteria, not necessarily through numbers, but documentation of, do I have a mission statement? What are my programs and services? How can I really do this level of self-reflection to then create plans for continuous improvement? So audience, right? Your functional area staff, if you engage in external reviews, that's a lot of times how we see, we talked to somebody last night who really bridges it between their on-campus program review to the accreditation process, which was beautiful. Love that. The other area that gets thought about quite often is this idea of devising staff development. So looking at that as an example, staff training agendas. I know I use our CAS standards. My staff love me for this. I'm just joking. Or once a month during certain seasons, we're breaking apart a section and using prompts like, are we meeting this standard? How could we meet it better? And just using it to more dialogue. And so that really, there's some really reflective pieces there when you talk about staff training agendas. And again, I kind of create this column on relevant sections just so you can kind of, again, have another mapping tool to look back to for where the different sections align with these areas. Guide strategic planning, that's a lot of the direction CAS is going in right now as well, is this idea that self-assessment, continuous improvement, whatever your version of goal planning is, and then division, area, university strategic planning don't need to be these wildly separate things. They can be interconnected, and we think CAS standards can help make that a lot less painful in a lot of ways. So not only the CAS portal updates, but some updates we have coming in the future, I think you'll see that a lot more clearly of, oh, this can really help me do some strategic planning. It can do that now because it speaks to the idea of setting goals and strategic plans and KPIs pretty decently now. It gives you the language to use is what I would say. But it'll be a lot more clear in the coming time as well with new updates CAS. Also, just the idea of that groundwork assessment level. I need to write learning outcomes. I need to come up with program outcomes and measurement tools and all of those. That is another kind of slam dunk effort of how, again, going back to that term, CAS can give you the language to build those things. Other areas of thoughts, again, Gail, during that, this is kind of like our top 4. But we like to kind of linger here and see if there's ideas in the chat of how you use CAS standards or have questions about it. We can just kind of give it a beat.
I think sometimes what gets lost is everyone thinks that you have to use these at a department level or at a functional area level. And you really can drill these down. If you're a staff of one or two, you can really drill these down to yourself just to see where you are in your own dynamic of your own little organization. If you want to, they're not specifically just for an institutional level program. You can definitely use them as a guide to help you do better in your own work.
And I think another good use for them is for staff onboarding. And then also if you're doing a job search to look at these standards and see where you're interviewing at, how they might compare to that.
Yeah, one of the reasons I want to show a slide now before we get into the portal is I think that can supercharge some ideas on how to use the portal with different uses of CAS. So the one Gail mentions, I think, is incredibly prescient with maybe even what I see in our current hiring environment. I do use CAS standards for orientation, especially when I'm hiring people from all kinds of private industry in different areas, just because that's what the applicant pools are looking like. And I find the CAS standards help people from outside higher ed navigate higher ed and student affairs work very well. So I can give CAS standards to the assistant director for grounds that came from the golf club industry or the golf, whatever, those places where they play golf. I don't play golf industry, and say, hey, read these, come up with some questions. This will help you navigate campus. Very effective for that. And then to Doreen's point, definitely use CAS standards for that idea of this is a personal experience where I've been really frustrated with things and I've gone, I don't think we're doing things by the best practice. And I'll look through CAS standards and use that to turn my emotions into really valid rationales for strategic conversations. I put it that way. All right, now let's get into the CAS Plus. I won't linger too much on the romanticized history of where we are or where we're going with this, but I do want to give some background. We ended up here in earnest related to a consultation report we received in 2024. We engaged in some real deep strategic planning that talked about the need for us to modernize the standards to make them more usable for our current practitioners. It noted that the field is dynamic. Offices are cross-functional, they're all over, and people don't have as many resources, and they're needing better help to accomplish some of this work. That's how I would translate it. We jump-started that with partnering with an organization or a higher ed tech company called 4Kitchens to build this AI-powered CAS Plus portal. To think about it in plain terms, it is a website portal that holds all of our intellectual property. So when you're interacting with the portal and the functional pieces that we'll show you, where we launch here with both the Explore functionality and the SAG Studio, when you see these functional pieces, it's a safe AI-powered space that's not hallucinating or pulling from other places. That's the one security piece we want to mention. It's giving you really deep, really thoughtful content that is only based off the CAS standards. And their related documents and resources. So that's kind of like the quick intro. We spent a quarter of a year really coding and building and working with the group 4Kitchens. Also had some really great validated examples that they've used. They built Yale Health's AI chatbot, which is really a really wonderful tool too. It's open to the public, and go check that one out. So great examples of how they've leveraged this technology to really impact higher ed in different spaces. And we're next up. So this slide template is actually the portal. I'm going to try to do a smooth transition over to the portal real quick to show some examples of how to use both the Explore functionality and the SAG Studio. So let me just talk through real quick and talk about the difference between these two. This is our first launch here. Anybody can go in, we'll give some instructions at the end of the presentation, and create a free profile through our CAS store, or sign up, I should say, for a free profile through our CAS store. It'll give you some emails after you've put it in your cart and signed out. And that's kind of a more lengthier process, which will give you some guidance on. But that's where I really encourage people to start. The Explore tool, I call it kind of like it's the professor. You can ask it questions. It kind of holds your hand, gives you some promptings. It gives you not just kind of a yes, no, it'll give you multiple paragraphs of well-formatted content that references standards. The only thing it won't give you is you can't say, hey, can you give me the campus activity standards so I can download them? It won't do that. But it'll give you a really healthy amount of content. I think this is going to have some really great applications for all kinds of different functional area fields. Not just, we originally, I was very myopic, thinking like this is going to be really great for grad students and grad curriculum, and they can put assignments through here and have people help explore the standards. It's going to be really great for a lot of things past this. I'll show you, that's our next slides here, is we're going to really show how to prompt this tool, how to use it, how to get some really meaningful content out of it. But even things like job interviews or creating a budget. And as long as you're, really thoughtful about how you engage with it and use that prompt engineering, it'll give you some really meaningful content. The one I'll jump to as well and just highlight on this screen is the SAG Studio. So this is our institutional tool and solution for divisions, entire institutions to really engage in that that continuous improvement, self-assessment process. So whether you're doing a full-on program review or you are just wanting to come up with a assessment template for something you're needing to do in a momentary time and place, the SAG Studio is a really great place to do that. The big headline functional piece of the SAG Studio that's beneficial is you can combine standards. You can combine standards, omit sections, add sections from different areas, up to 5 different functional areas, and what will be produced is a customized Word document, so it's already better than a PDF. You can use at your discretion. SAG's self-assessment guide, custom document that utilizes AI without losing meaning, meaning it combines statements and it creates a very, very efficient format compared to, again, if you're familiar with the you should do this, you must do that. It still has some of that language, but it reads much more succinctly with the same formatting options for you to be able to provide information and justifications and different ways to document that self improvement or that rigorous self study. So really quick here before we get into the portal, I'm going to show a couple examples. Actually, what I'll do is I'll show these slides first, and then I'll show you what they look like in the portal. This is some very basic level. We're running some larger workshops on some more in-depth, like, hey, here's how to create GPTs, and here's how to do some visual dashboards inside and outside of the portal. Here's how to really up your assessment game in a lot of ways. For the purpose of the day, just to kind of get you familiar and used to wherever you're at on the continuum of working with AI or using your chosen engines or tools, you can still utilize the portal to do some of these pretty more like intermediate type of pieces, right? So we'll show you here in the next when we go into the portal itself, this idea of kind of the good or better version of a prompt. The idea of, look, I need to know what to do with assessment. I'm just kind of getting started. It'll definitely give you some great answers, which we'll display. The better versions of a lot of these is to really kind of, as I call it, like prime the pump for the AI engine, the portal itself, and to do things like, hey, look, I'm a director in student activities. Could you recommend some first steps for starting an assessment process? What you'll see in the examples we'll show is that actually gets you to a very an annotated, directly linked answer from the portal itself around student or campus activities. It'll note those pieces and it makes it more meaningful. A little bit more of like one level deeper to that would be the idea of like actually conducting this. I know I'm just sticking in the assessment realm. There's a lot more we'll explore, but just kind of dip our toe in. The idea between these two responses of, hey, look, I need to do a focus group versus, one I did the other day was like, I work in academic advising. I have 20 students coming in who are engineering students. I need to do a focus group with them. What would be a good agenda and the structure for me to do for the next 60 minutes? So again, if you've had experience in AI to this point and have seen a lot of times maybe some of the first experience or impressions are like, this is kind of lame, but it also kind of garbage in, garbage out, depends on how you're utilizing the tools in a lot of ways, or at least that's how I've learned it. There's all kinds of, again, if you join one of our half-day workshops at a NASPA or NACA or where we're going to be next, we do all kinds of things, even going as deep as helping you code settings in your own chosen AI engine, so that it doesn't guesstimate as much, or it actually provides guidance on how to create dashboards for your supervisor based on information it picks up from reading your supervisor's language and material. So just very broad distinctions and enticements of how we can help guide on some of these AI processes. But to pause there, we're going to jump to the portal itself. Whoa. Oh, I'm like, there we go. Gail Drain, feel free to jump in if anything as I figure out how to get out of this bigger screen. There we go. All right. Everybody ready for the portal again? Okay, so what we have here is what you would see minus this sidebar. This is the sidebar I get to see with admin access, is the idea of the free version where you're creating your own profile via the CAS store. you've checked out, you've gotten a couple emails, and the email sent you over here where you use your login to say, hey, look, I want to start exploring. So what that looks like is from a very basic level, we're very intentional about the UX design and showing this idea that even if you have no background with the CAS standards, how do you do something like, a good place to start is understanding a specific CAS standard. Like I just want to kind of toggle the list and we're actually going to select leadership programs, and then I'm going to explore what leadership programs has to offer from the level of functionality of the current kind of level 1 free explore module here. And what's nice about that is it always provides a question bar underneath. So you can keep asking questions, you can keep on the same thread. What you'll also see here to the side of the chat will hold. I don't really know for how many days. This goes back pretty far for me. But you can always return back to some of those threads. So just to give kind of a taste and a flavor of what a general question around leadership education development, it talks about the high level kind of mission vision pieces, as it notes here in the second paragraph. It does capture some of those. We've really tested the portal out for like, does it capture those really specific thematic elements that are unique to certain standards and just aren't part of the general standards? So that learner-centric piece around leadership development. Like it generally captures, you can see here, it's quite a few paragraphs of info. So that's just one of those general threads. If we go back to Explore, you'll see some of the different standard, some of the standard responses we have here that you can go through, how to read CAS standards. We've got some uploaded information. And then another functional piece is these kind of sidebar threads that let you keep going through what's a practical way to approach CAS standards. I haven't done this. We're just kind of riffing now for the CAS standards. See what it says. It thinks for a while. It's very smart, but it takes its time because of how powerful it is. That's what I'll say. Practical way, begin by reviewing the contextual statement, which is a really good note. We aren't always as forthright about that, but the contextual statement and how you actually start and read the CAS standards, that was a good note. Thanks for that, CAS. We wish we could have called it Cassie. That's what we really wanted to name it, like a little robot. But here is the example that I highlighted on the chat. So I just want to show this before we're going to show this and then dive into the SAG Studio as well. So you can kind of see some of that functionality. But you can kind of see the variance in responses here. When you go through and say, look, I'm new to assessment, please and thank you. Where do I start? It'll reference here, it'll annotate it and cite the assessment services standards. Like it'll give you this nice, whatever this is, 1 through 8 example. And it's good. It realistically mirrors what you'll see next, but it's not as specific. So this is a great place to start just to give you some direction. Of course, you can always ask your follow-up questions and figure out what's next. The more pointed, primed conversation around I'm an assistant director, working student activities, recommend some good first steps. As you can see here, it'll actually pull through, hey, look, create and sustain a culture of assessment, communicate openly about benefits of assessment. That's from Campus Activities 4.1. So there's something else you can do too. If you have the SAG Studio, you can go in and look up what 4.1 actually means. You can read through that. So it gives you kind of that taste. But again, much more than a yes, no. It points out some specifics that are really helpful. And it will, again, since I noted that it's campus activities, it did note some of the specific language in here from the campus activities standards as opposed to just pulling from an assortment of standards. So again, helpful tip on how to really prompt it to get the best response or the better response out of it as well. So let's see here. Do you have? Oh, I think it skipped over one. Let me see here. So the other one we had, let me see. I had it here. No, campus stores. I'm gonna try to find. It's kind of pulling back to it. So if I can't find it quickly in my chat history, because I don't necessarily want to pull up all of them here. The focus group examples, right? Like it'll give you that agenda piece, which is really helpful. Let me see if I can find it. Had a hard time pulling up my chats earlier. So again, in that context of how you can use it to develop a focus group, I found when I asked it about student activities-based focus groups, it gave some really insightful. One of the tips it gave me when I just ran it today was about, hey, you've got this amount of people. Here's some good questions, and then split people up by 2s and 3s so more people can have a voice at the intro, like kind of do some breakouts. And I was like, I've done a lot of focus groups. I've never applied that concept, and I thought that was really brilliant. So somewhere in our materials, we may have noted that as a best practice or as a suggestion around running focus groups, which I think was really helpful. So to return back to the slides, and I'll pause there. Any questions on the Explore? Because we're going to hit on Explore a little bit. but then we're going to go into SAG Studio for kind of the remainder piece of the day. Feel free to unmute or in the chat. I can't see anything, so that's also a preface. Oh, got far past there. All right.
Jason, I do have
Yes,
one.
go ahead.
Sorry. So is the difference between using yours versus like if we were to use something in like ChatGPT is that you've preloaded all of the CAS standards into it versus like if we were to upload, the CAS standards as an attachment and say evaluate based on the standards and the associated documents, like your CAS Plus free model is all preloaded information and we can guarantee it's all there.
Yeah, I think that's a wonderful encapsulation of the difference, right? That was kind of the question we started. What's the difference between this and your ChatGPT or just buying my PDF? One, it's definitely more efficient because your point is it's the library of all the CAS materials and separate from unless you created and separate from other outside engines, it's not pulling any external information. So there's validation, and plus it was coded in a very specific way where it's also learning as people are putting information in. So it's giving more rich answers. It's not using their answers, but it is becoming, I keep calling it more professorial each approach and each run through. But it is that especially as a selling point to universities, right? It is that safety net. It's not pulling extenuating or external information. Plus it's where all the IP, right, lives right now for CAS. So
Yes. So it can't pull anything from the outside world, and it doesn't what they call hallucinate, right? Isn't
Yep.
that what they call it?
Yeah,
So
that was going to be my next question.
yes,
Yeah.
we that was very important to us, and we worked with the developers on that because this is just CAS stuff. It's nothing else.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
So great note. And again, I think what's beneficial for any level of professional, right, is to get that free account and to not just, hey, I want to learn more about CAS standards, but I want to be more familiar or comfortable, I should say, working in some of these AI tools. This is a nice entry point, is how I'd put it as well, especially thinking about it like from a staff development lens. So just when we really tested this pretty rigorously with other assessment professionals and other functional area staff. Just some things that came up, right? Like, hey, I want to start a new program, this basic needs, let's say, for example, where do I start? The Explore functionality will give you some really great starting steps. Good topics for, asking about topics for staff trainings. This was the number 4 is I got from our career services director because I was showing him the portal and he's like, oh, if I'm like interviewing for a job from an area that I wasn't as familiar with, I could just use the Explore functionality to help me prep for the job interview. And I was like, oh, I didn't think about that. So I started doing that on some searches, right? And it was like, oh, this did really help me prepare if I was, interested in a role that had dining services involved or auxiliary services. I could ask it some really thoughtful questions and help prepare. Of course, anything related to assessment methods, because the standards are so rich with standardized content and unique content around assessment, asking about qualitative methods, asking about these other pieces. I didn't put it on the slides, but things like personnel management. We've kind of tested it in a number of different areas of different staff's specific topics. Providing a budget, building a budget. I mean, that's a pretty straightforward topic. Again, utilizing prompts like this with what I'm prefacing is more of a priming. Like I work in these spaces. These are my parameters. These are the things I'm needing from the to get a better answer overall. Will help elevate any of these prompts. But we do like to show this for some thoughtfulness once you're in there in the Explore functionality and using it. Any other thoughts or on Explore questions? Of course, we'll have time for questions then too. I just want to kind of give a breather. Doreen, Gail, anything from that part of the portal? And I can't see, so I'm just going to wait.
Yeah, sorry about that, Jason.
No. Okay.
I'm shaking
All
my
right.
head, but you can't see
Yeah,
me.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're good.
I
We're
can
good.
feel it. I can feel it. All right. So the fun one too, SAG Studio. This is, hey, let us know if you're interested. We want to be able to work with your institution and division on a license for this different area. Right now, we're rolling out SAG Studio on and it will continue to be this way. It's a seat-based license, right? Where we don't necessarily create a finite number, but we'll work with your area and division to upload seats and to kind of start helping you create this ecosystem for assessment. The very simple ideas are you're picking 1 to 5 standards. I've done this previously, so I'll show a version of what this looks like. You're picking your 1 to 5 standards for combination purposes. We're kind of working on this language too, because you can just go ahead and take 5 standards and say, give me all 12 sections of all 5 standards. And it will try its darndest to combine everything. So let's say a 1.1 mission statement section, it will try to combine 5 mission statement sections into one. And gosh darn it, I'll tell you, every time I've tried to catch it, it's beat me every time when I thought, oh, you are not going to be able to capture this very specific phrase that we spent weeks discussing and elevating within 1.1 or 4.1 or whatever it is. It captures it. And more times than not, this is where I think Gail was at the NASPA conference. I was texting her after discovering some of this. I was like, weird. It takes 3 standards and combines them into one and doesn't lose a lick of meaning, which is really impressive to me. It also means we probably overdid our writing in a lot of ways in our history of how we wrote standards. But that's just more praise for how the tool is able to still create something efficient that is, I think, most importantly, going back to our recommendations from our consultants, digestible for the audience that it's meant for the practitioners working in the field, for the people who are running these assessments. So that's my soapbox for a little bit. It looks really great. It provides these what do you call it? It provides these summarized standards. I always give the example, like for the idea of program reviews, if you do, that's kind of the highest level of how this tool will be used, right? When you're doing these big external program reviews every 3 to 5 years, we run them here, and we just restarted CAS Standards before the portal, and so like our union program review was really the best example, where the union director came to me and they're like, I got 4 different CAS standards. I got conference and event services, I got esports, I got student activities, and I got my union standards. I'm supposed to do 48 sections for a self-review. And I was like, no, you just, take this section from here, take this section. And again, in our current previous to the portal format, they're just like, I don't know what you mean. I have no idea how to accomplish that. So this is the biggest pain point that the standards, I'll go to that in a minute, that the standards actually accomplish. So while I'm sharing here, I'm going to pull over one I already did. I will tell you, once you're in here messing around with it, it takes about 2 minutes to actually upload these standards, or I'm sorry, create your custom standards. So one I did real quick. I think we can all see it here. I think I'm doing pretty good actually moving through documents. Look at this. This is this is what it'll look like. It'll give you this nice custom self-assessment guide, when it was created. Again, it's a Word document, so it's already better than a PDF. And it'll show you this was campus activities programs, and leadership education. But it wasn't all the sections. That's one of the improvements we're working on, is to tag, okay, I used section 1 through 12, let's say, of campus activities. Sometimes I'm encouraging, like, make the backbone one, let's say it's campus activities, or the union in the other example, make that your backbone, use all 12 sections, and then pull together a couple other sections for summarization and for efficiency. So then it gives you this is what a SAG already looks like, right? But now you're just getting the mushed up version of the two. I know for sure I combined section 1 of campus activities and leadership programs, because it has the very specific language around being grounded in the belief that leadership can be learned. So very specific coding on the back end. We said kind of, organize phrases in ways that make sense. So it'll combine subsections, these 1.1s, 1.2s, into an area that doesn't lose meaning and incorporates all those important points, I should say, from these two. So then you've got your typical like self-assessment guide. Again, this one's fillable now because it's not a PDF. And so you're able to use this and we say kind of like use it at the discretion of the given institution. So if you're a department head or an assessment professional and you're using this for your own self-study, whatever level of seriousness or formality that's needed, that is your ability to work with this SAG document. And I'll show what it looks like in the portal here next. That SAG document that is created to your institutional context, which is nice to the extent it can be the institutional context. I referenced a conversation we had with another professional who looked at this as like, okay, well, we can use the SAG Studio to create custom self-assessment guides and then use the Explore tool to help people like educate themselves on the program review process. And then it becomes kind of a learning ecosystem. But in general, in that larger program review, this is going to be well suited for somebody who's kind of controlling the mechanics of that program review process. What it actually looks like. Let's see. That's the problem with making your slide deck the same as the portal, is you don't know when you're in which one. So this is what it looked like when you have that we call it the all access license. You're simply going to say, hey, I want to get started. Here's the 51 sets of standards that are loaded. We've got let's just say I wanted to do union and just say in the C's, campus activities. And then it just gives you a check on checkbox. It lets you go through and figure out which ones, again, if you want to keep college unions the backbone or campus activities, and you can organize and remove. I'm there, click, and then next, and it'll give you kind of your summary, and then create my SAG. We'll just go ahead and do it, and it slows down when you go off screen, so this is just for demonstration purposes. But as I said, it takes about 2 minutes because it's really working hard. It's really thinking on what to do. And I'm going to show one more slide here, and then we get into some discussion as well. The idea of the SAG Studio, again, is our first phase. We just rolled this out. We're hoping to partner with a lot of institutions to really build that ecosystem. And Dream, maybe you can speak more of this. We are deep in the phase already of what phase 2, phase 3 could look like. Maybe I'll just kick it over there.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what's really cool about all of this is the technology of the agentic learning process moves so quickly. And probably what we're talking about to you today is going to be different in a month. That's how fast it's moving. So, with that, the updates that we were looking at that we thought were maybe, 6 months, 8 months out are happening a lot faster than we even thought. So we're looking at like monthly upgrades to the portal using 4Kitchens. They're helping us do all of this, but that's how fast things are moving. And if you're into all access, or even if you do the individual level one, you'll get the benefit of all those upgrades without even knowing it. It'll just be there for you. There's no additional purchase. There's nothing like that. It just comes with, the ability to be in the portal as it gets upgraded. So some of the things we're looking at are the ability to pass this around into your own ecosystem and create a team where everybody has access to the same document so that you're all updating the same document at the same time or whenever you have a chance to do that. And then we're going to ask Cassie to take all of your input and summarize it for you. So you'll come out with a singular product, maybe you were entering or had 5, 8 members of a team all entering in information. It'll get rid of the redundancies, keep the core functionality of what everyone's trying to say, pertinent information, combine it all, summarize it, and you'll come out with a single document. Then we're even looking at future phase 3 we're calling it phase 3. Could be sooner than that, or wherever phase 3 lives, right? But it is the ability to do some benchmarking, some anonymized benchmarking, where you can start to compare yourselves and say, yeah, I'm a small private. I don't have, a staff of 10 working for me. What do my scores look like compared to somebody who's similar to me? Something like that. Anonymized, so you don't know who you're looking at, but just to give you some level of assuredness of where you're fitting in your own ecosystem in the higher ed space in general. Did I do that justice enough, Jason, or did I leave something out? These upgrades, by the way, are coming from you. They're coming from you, the users, as you tell us, hey, I'd like it to do this or that. We're taking that to heart. We're looking at what the AI portal can do, what we can learn from it, and we're actually pushing it through and making those updates. So you're part of this. All of the users that are coming into it, you're definitely all part of this. Did it make it yet? Did it create a SAG yet?
Oh, probably. But it's not going to be as good as the custom one I made, which we just kind of breezed through, right? But wanted to show kind of the functionality of how it all pulls together. And again, yeah, that very quickly coming phase 2 and phase 3. When I mentioned that too, what does this all cost? What does this look like? Well, we're hoping to partner with you, institutions and individuals. We do have a middle tier, which I haven't even commented on yet. So the free, we really wanted to display the free today because we think that has so much value for the field and for higher ed and our new professionals and all professionals. But the idea also is we also do have an individual license. It's $299 a year, and with that, you're able to pull one standard. So limited functionality. You can use the SAG Studio with the one standard. It gives you access just like our PDFs do currently, and it lets you summarize and remove sections and move things around, which is great. Obviously, the bigger one is the all access piece, the institution-wide support, where we're working with you for giving you a number of licenses to be in here and to affect and improve your assessment protocols and your program reviews. This also has a discount structure based on your involvement with NACA. Doreen, do you want to kind of mention that quick, the sliding scale a bit? It's not sliding scale, but discount.
Yeah. So as a member of NACA, you'll have discount codes that will get applied through the store to be able to buy individual at $50 off, and then the all access is $500 off as a benefit for being a NACA member. Um, and that's for all the council associations. I know there are a few of you that are from different associations, but that's for all the council associations.
And is that set up and ready to go?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. The only part we're still working with is that free. We're trying to make free's user experience a little bit better. That should be coming hopefully in a week or two.
Mhm. And so why we want to show the phase 2, phase 3 is I mean, these are annual memberships essentially, right? To allow you to eventually the next phase is the ability to upload and keep your information in this, which is really, really going to create that ecosystem we're mentioning. So it's kind of the sales pitch, kind of like get in now while the functionality is coming, and then we don't have the ability to change the price on you, which would be great, right? Keep you locked in that introductory rate for your institution. But again, we are trying to make this a sustainable model so that we're able to serve all of the various institutions that want to be involved. And so we really think kind of, again, if you not to point fingers, we look at other higher ed tech software out there and what they're charging per year, a pittance in some ways. So that's the idea of free. I did want to show quick, because we mentioned it's a bit laborious and cumbersome, and we're trying to improve the free piece of it, is what I should say. But I want to give you a quick highlight here, and we can send out more information. We have a kind of a stepped out guide. This is my summarized version. If you go now, not to the portal, but to cas.edu, or you go directly to our store.cas.edu, you'll see in the listing of products, there's a series of CAS Plus products. So you've got the free version there. You can load it to your bag and check out. And just quick note that kind of misses some people sometimes is you'll get 2 emails after that. It's a $0 checkout process. Obviously, it's free. You'll get an email with your confirmation, and then you'll get another email with your login information. And then that's what pulls you over to the portal itself and gives you access to that landing page and the Explore functionality. So hopefully that was a good encapsulation of everything happening with CAS Plus and where we're going with it and ways we can partner and get involved. I'll just kind of give it a breather there. Got 10 minutes and see. Can tell if we had any questions in the chat. Feel free to unmute or join in, or Doreen or Gail, if you have anything to kind of wrap up with as well.
I have a quick question. If your institution has obviously multiple people doing the CAS standards, but we only really need one mass login, how do we connect for that? Or how would we know if our institution has already paid for it? Will that already be reflected in some way? Or does that kind of make sense with this
Yeah, it
new
does. Really good
structure?
question. I think kind of the pitch there, great during this would be my take, right? Is who's using CAS standards? Everybody get together and somebody can pay for it, and then your internal transfer some dollars over and share the cost a little bit. Because in that model, we would give licenses to whoever kind of needs it through that division, right, Doreen, and kind of
Yeah.
manage it manually. So that's kind
But
of the
I mean
benefit.
more like how would our institute, like if one of us is paid for, let's say I just
Mhm.
paid for it, then everybody would have access for that year. How would it, when people log in, they would just find out their institution will be listed as like, yep, it's already done, or I just don't know
So
what that's
we
gonna look like.
Great question. Yeah.
Yeah. So the license is held by seats, right? So so we'd need to know who lives in the seat. So you would just
Okay.
yeah. So
It
you
wouldn't
would,
be like you go and you go, oh, my university's there. Great. I'll
yeah,
now
you wouldn't
start
know
using it.
that.
Okay. 'Cause that's what I'm
But
trying
you
to figure out.
would,
How do you communicate this to everybody? Where I could just say, hey, everybody, we have it. Everybody start using this, get really excited about it, versus I'll have to be like, send me your thing, and then I'll get you signed up or something like that.
all I need is their email addresses, and you could email me and say, hey, add these people to my license. And we'll backfill them for you. They don't have to create an account and go in and go to the
Okay.
store. They don't have to do any of that.
Do you think it'll ever be a chance where it'll be like we've bought one for the university and then they can just go in, single source, log in, and then just start using it? It's kind of what OIT does across our campuses.
Yeah,
Once
I
they
know
kind of
what
have
you're,
a site,
yeah,
essentially a site license, and
yeah.
then it's like, hey, everybody, we have access to this, because then you might get more adoption of the use of CAS on our campus versus relying on me to like send you an email one-on-one.
Yeah, agreed, and that's a good point. It doesn't do that right now, but that's
Okay.
certainly something we can look to do. As I said before, we're going to look to you for all these enhancements now. Brian, you're number one on the list. I got you.
I was just thinking, I'm just going to pay for this, but I wanted to tell everybody to go use it. I didn't know that I was going to have to like then have them all email me and then email. I might slow the process down, but I'll do
It
it. I'll do
it will a tad, but you know, you can add as many, you can send me as many emails as you think you need to get you started
it.
and do
Okay.
it that way.
Thank you
Pretty
very
cool too
much.
that you cover the cost and be the champion for the division and say, hey everybody, we're also doing it in this lo-fi way because the tokens do cost, right? So we're not trying to put a cap on it. We didn't think that was meaningful. But at the same time, right, if you know who's really going to be using it, somebody does have to kind of orchestrate that at the ground level and hey, give me your emails. But that's also a way we were kind of also able to hopefully monitor what some of the cost is, right? We kind of set this price and we're you know paying for the tokens on the back end and kind of just modulate, but we also at the same time didn't want to limit what we were doing.
There you are, you're back. Yeah, your
Oh, I'm
sound
back.
just went out a little bit.
Never mind. It wasn't
I
meaningful,
could
but
kind of, I could kind of hear him. I kind of was like, I could kind of hear it.
Yeah.
what else?
Ellie wants to know how many people from an institution can be added. So right now we don't have a limitation, Ellie. We can work with you. Um, you know, you want to make sure you're adding your people that are going to be in there and using it for the most part in an assessment sort of way. But yeah, just work with us and we'll get your people in.
Oh,
And Kim says when the
well,
next
this will be
version,
updated.
yeah, will the auto. Okay, so um, we have a couple standards in play that will be automatically added to the system, and they'll be imported as soon as we have them available. The ones that are in play right now, Jason, help me. Civic engagement
Yeah.
is one of them that's coming along, which will be added in right away, I think. But Jason, why don't I hand it
Yeah.
back to you to talk about the general standards a little
Two
bit.
things, general standards and any of these additional functionalities, you'll just sign in and those will be updated in the portal. So there'll be maybe an announcement or something, but yes, you'll see, and we'll do to the next question, Becky, we'll do the typical press releases of, hey, standards have been updated. But as members within the portal, you won't notice anything different. You will know something different because they'll be updated, but you won't have to do anything different. Let me put it that way. They will be in there for you to use. But also to Doreen's point about you're helping create this, like great point. Maybe there's a notification functionality one day when you go in and it pings you and says, hey, the civic engagement standards just got updated. Want to check them out? So that's a really good functional note. Yeah, also ideas for functionality are really helpful as well.
Doreen, will you put your email in the chat so that if people have more questions or have ideas, they can send them to you, please?
Absolutely.
Well, thank you, Jason, Gail, Doreen. Great to have you share with us the new CAS Plus platform. If there's any other questions for the folks, you can always reach out to us as well. We can get you in for the right folks over at CAS. It's exciting to see all the new updates and how you're really evolving with the times and using the technology. So I think it's really, really going to be helpful to the practitioners. So we're excited as a member association as well. But thank you, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thank you, NACA, for having us.
Good to see all my good friends and colleagues on the call.